going on, everyone? It is currently Friday, October 11th, 2019, and you are tuning in to the next installment of the Five Starr Wrestling Report review series, where each week on this channel, we take a look at MLW Fusion, AEW Dynamite, and NXT TV. We are in the midst of the Wednesday Night Wars right now, and we are officially through with week 2. So it's a big week this week for both NXT and AEW as they continue their efforts to outdo one another on their programming. And MLW is just sort of a sidecast right now. But let's kick it off with MLW Fusion this week, because I do want to get that show out of the way before we before we get to the bigger details of AEW and NXT. So let's go over that first. Beforehand, as I normally like to do on this channel, I would like to do some plugs. So if you are checking out the show for the first time and you would like to stay posted for any future FSWR YouTube content, please make sure you subscribe. Also, go ahead and hit that little bell icon to stay notified of any uploads that occur on this channel. We have 2 uploads every week. We have a Monday edition, which is our news bulletin and weekend events program. And then we also have our Friday episode, which is the one you are tuning into today, where we have our review series edition. Again, that's a show every Friday where we talk about MLW, NXT, and AEW. So, there you go. Also, I'd like to have your feedback on any of the topics discussed in this video today. So please go ahead and comment down below, share anything that you have regarding any of the 3 shows, if you saw all 3 shows. And also, if you could do me a favor and rate this video, just to show your appreciation for it and show that you're interested in keeping posted in future FSWR content. All right, let's go over MLW Fusion, episode 78. Magnus and Septimo Dragon versus Los Parks. First thing that I wrote down about this match. Septimo Dragon apparently means that he is the 7th dragon in the wrestling business. To which I ask, so where are the other mysterious 6 other dragons? Is there a sexto dragon that we are unaware of? What about the quinto, cuarto, tercer, segundo, y premier dragon? Are they a thing? Who knows? Maybe LA Park ate them all. It's entirely possible. So about halfway through the match, Rich Piccini blatantly admits that he does not know which masked dude is Magnus and which one is Septimo, because as is the gimmick with every segment in MLW, nobody knows who anyone is or what is going on more than half the time. And it also should probably be noted that I, in addition to Rich and Tony, had no clue which masked dude was Magnus or Septimo, and the fact that neither announcer could clarify this for me made me even angrier. This was the newest installment of the never-ending MLW match. I was begging for someone to pick up a fall so that they could just end this. Here's the thing. I don't want to sit here and say that the match was bad. There were a couple cool things that happened in the match. They did a spot where both Parks did leaping dives off the top rope and over the guardrail to take out the baby faces. That was cool, even though LA Park barely cleared the guardrail and almost impaled himself. But it's just like I said, it was the match that kept on going, despite having several opportunities to end the match on a high note. And I have absolutely no idea when this became a thing in modern pro wrestling, but I see it more and more from so many companies now, and it just irritates me every time I see it. It's this idea that we have to get all of our crap in, and we have to do 150 things in one match before we do a finish, even if that means sacrificing a potential good finish by transitioning into doing more unnecessary stuff. And I saw several things like that in this very match. Like, there's a spot about 3/4 of the way through where Hijo hit a Canadian destroyer to one of the baby faces, and I'm like, damn, that was sick. Man, that'd be an awesome finish to the match. But then they do a kick out, and then they just do a bunch more crap for like 5 more minutes. I'm like, why? You could have ended on such a high note. But instead, you use a Canadian Destroyer, which used to be an amazing finisher back when TNA had Petey Williams do the move, and you use it as just another move that means absolutely nothing. I mean, it's insane to me. The crowd's going crazy for it. You could easily end the match right then and there, but you don't. There's an old saying in the business, just because you can go 15 minutes does not mean that you should. Perhaps the agents in this company should take note. So, finally, after I've aged about 15 years watching this match, the Red Park did a dive to take out the Sin Cara knockoff. They had an extremely choreographed-looking spot where Park kicks, as my notes read here, I think Septimo, and as Park goes up to hit a splash, I think Septimo moves out of the way so that Park hits the ref. Selena De La Renta then hits the ring and kicks, I think, Septimo in the groin, directly in front of the referee, by the way. And then Park rolls up, I think, Septimo to get the win. And then afterwards, Contra Unit interrupts with a promo and basically declare that Jacob Fatu is going to maim LA Park. And it also is at this point that I noted, who am I intended to cheer for in this title program? Jacob Fatu and Contra Unit are clearly established heels in MLW, but LA Park has also been a heel in the majority of his work in MLW, at least the work that I've seen him do. And he and Hijo de LA Park just won a tag match after getting a cheap heel victory. So, am I supposed to just pick and choose who I want to cheer for? Are they just going to expect people to cheer for LA Park anyway because that's what most people have been doing? I mean, I don't know. I don't know what's going on here. And who am I kidding? No one in this company knows what's going on either. We had a series of pre-tapes, one of them being a promo from the Von Erichs challenging MJF and Richard Holiday for the MLW tag titles. Yes, they had Marshall and Ross talk again. Hide the children. And then after their coma-inducing 10-second promo, Holiday and MJF had their own skit. Holiday said that his lawyer, a.k.a. his dad, looked over the contract for the title match, and after reviewing the documentation, it was determined that Holiday and MJF will not go to Mexico to defend their MLW tag titles. I will say that I laughed when Holiday brought up the fact that his lawyer is also his father, but yeah, I guess they're just able to do this now, so whatever. They did some pay-per-view plugs for the MLW Superfight card, in addition to the LA Park and Jacob Fatu World title match, which is apparently a no DQ match. Might have been helpful for the announce team to mention that during the rundown. We also have the Tom Lawler versus Timothy Thatcher and Alexander Hammerstone versus Davey Boy Smith for the MLW Openweight title announced. Pretty good card so far, I would say. Ariel Dominguez versus the debuting Dominic Garrini, who looks like Dave Meltzer got dressed up to go to karate class. Anyway, they had a pretty short and uneventful match. Dominic just threw the puny Ariel around for a few minutes, locked in the cross armbar, and got the win. I presume they did this to cover up for the fact that Dominic is still very green and he's trying to learn how to work a professional ring style. And afterwards, Casey came in to interview Dominic. He said that he wants MLW to line up the top grapplers and fighters like Timothy Thatcher and Tom Lawler so that he can take them out too. So I guess we are presumed to believe that after one match against a kid who looks like he'd barely clear the height requirement to ride the Phantom's Revenge at Kennywood, I guess we're already supposed to buy that this Dominic Garrini fella can stand up to Tom Lawler and Timothy Thatcher. Maybe he should have a couple squash matches first. We had Tom Lawler doing a skit in the parking lot. Camera guy asked for a response to Timothy Thatcher's challenge to Lawler. He said he thought that Thatcher was a mute, yay deaf jokes. And then he said that he'll make sure Thatcher's missing tooth is not the only one missing after he kicks the rest of them down his throat. So I guess Tom Lawler's supposed to be a heel now. I mean, it would stand to reason, right? Thatcher made the open challenge to Lawler after putting over a dude on the mic last week, and Lawler's response was to make a deaf remark and threaten to kick Thatcher's teeth in. Maybe I'm overthinking it. We had a promo for what they will be referring to as the Jimmy Havoc Slaughterhouse. So I guess Havoc thinks he's Raven or something now. It's probably going to end up being some Clockwork Orange House of Fun knockoff. You know, because what professional wrestling really needs in 2019 is more extreme hardcore wrestling crap where dudes are pointlessly bleeding and killing themselves with weapons for cheap crowd pops. We had a quick vignette for a GoFundMe page regarding Samu Inoi's recent heart transplant surgery. They really put that over well. And then we had a teaser for a future debuting character named the Untouchable Gino Medina. Looks like a Velveteen Dream ripoff to me, but I guess we shall see. Injustice had a promo skit. They complained about the finish at the tag match last week, wherein Cotto Brazil was pinned despite being the illegal partner. They talked about all MLW officials and management being out to get them. And then they claimed that they would get their justice. And I did note that I thought it was amusing to see Myron Reed still wearing the chest protector in this skit. Other than that, I've really got nothing else to add. I still think the gimmick is lame and has absolutely no legs. And based on what I've seen from the group so far, they don't really seem to be generating a response from the crowd. Of course, to be fair, what does spark a reaction from the crowd in MLW? Then we had Austin Aries versus Brian Pillman Jr. in the main event. Aries gave Pillman a slap right from the beginning. Pillman ran wild early on, but got cut off on the apron with a big shove. Aries took control and worked Pillman over for a while. Pillman made a comeback and went for a pin, but Aries broke it up by boxing his ears, which was pretty innovative. He got the last chancery locked in at one point, but Pillman grabbed the ropes. And one of the stories they played up throughout the match was the idea of Aries giving Pillman the brainbuster on the apron like he did to Teddy Hart last week. And that was actually kind of cool there. I did write down, too, it is incredible to see the stark contrast of Pillman Jr. wrestling versus Pillman Jr. doing promos. Every time this guy cuts a promo, it's literally like watching paint dry. There's just absolutely nothing to his personality whatsoever. Then he gets in the ring to wrestle, and he's on a whole different planet. He shows some personality, he gets the crowd behind him, he's really solid in there. It's like, why can't he do this when he cuts promos? I don't get it. Anyway, Pillman went for a dive to the outside, but Aries cut him off, and then he tossed Pillman back in the ring, hit a drop kick in the corner, and followed up with a brainbuster for the clean pin. And then afterwards, he cut a promo on Teddy Hart, said he's been challenging him for weeks, but Hart won't respond. He said he's been taking out Hart's lackeys, so unless he's planning on sending out his cat to get destroyed, he wants an answer from Hart right now. I would like to also point out for the record that I would absolutely pay money to see Austin Aries wrestle Teddy Hart's Rat Cat on pay-per-view. And Hart eventually comes out to the ring, and him and Aries have a short little brawl to close out the show, and that was it. Overall, I thought the show was much better than last week. The opener went on far too long for me, and I still have no idea who to cheer for in that world title program. But aside from that, I didn't really hate anything on this week's show. Main event was solid. I liked the brawl to close out the show, and they're putting together a decent card for that Super Fight show in November. At least I know it's an actual pay-per-view this time, so yeah, decent show. Not bad. Okay, AEW Dynamite from October 9th, 2019. The Young Bucks versus Private Party in the first round of the AEW Tag Title Tournament. They introduced Private Party as hailing from a location where you need an invitation, as well as weighing in at 24 ounces of vodka cran. Clever. And here is the story of this match based on the video package they aired beforehand. The Young Bucks saw Private Party wrestle at an indie show. They apparently liked what they saw out of them, so they offered them a deal to come work for AEW, and while Private Party are still a green, unestablished tag team right now, they've also been making headway by beating some of the more established teams in AEW, such as Jack Evans and Angelico. And now they have come across their biggest challenge yet by facing off against, arguably, the best tag team in the world right now, or something. And it is all for a chance for them to become the inaugural AEW Tag Team Champions. So they have the match, and it's a really explosive, fast-paced tag match with some of the wildest fan reactions you could possibly see in a pro wrestling show today. Private Party's running wild right out of the gate. Mark Quinn, I think that's who it was, did these huge series of dives to take out both Bucks on the outside. He gave Nick Jackson a 450 splash for a near fall. The fans were solely convinced that this was the early finish here, but of course Nick kicked out. The Bucks took control to get the heat. Matt gave Isaiah Cassidy a running powerbomb on the rampway. They worked over Quinn for a while. Cassidy eventually got back up and got a hot tag. And Cassidy actually had a really brilliant moment here where he took out Matt and Nick after getting the hot tag. And as he went up to do a Shawn Michaels nip-up, he actually grabbed a hold of his lower back in order to sell the effects of the powerbomb he took earlier on the ramp. And I like this, not only because you never see this kind of detail being drawn to in WWE, but it's the fact that a young green worker in Isaiah Cassidy was able to pick up on something like this with his level of experience in the business. Meanwhile, I see guys like Seth Rollins in WWE, who's been in this business for years, and you see him take these devastating-looking bumps during matches, where he'll land on his ankle and he'll sell it for a little bit, but then by the end, because it's WWE and the babyfaces have to run wild at the end, he just magically springs up to his feet and he hits the ropes like nothing ever happened, and it's just like a complete no-sell by that point. And it's so infuriating to me every time I see it. So I, for one, appreciate that this Isaiah Cassidy fella sold the effects of something that occurred earlier in the match. Big thumbs up for him. So the Bucks ended up gaining control for a minute on Cassidy. They gave him a buckle bomb / kick to the back combo spot in the corner, followed by an immediate sharpshooter. Nick took out Quinn so that he couldn't break up the hold. The fans are rallying behind Cassidy to reach the ropes to break it up. He eventually does. They did a great Poison Rana 450 splash for a near fall on Matt. And then finally, the Bucks go for the Meltzer driver, but Cassidy yanks Nick off the apron, and Quinn rolls up Matt to get the big pin. And it was funny, too, because after the bell, fans are going ballistic for this finish. Private Party's out there celebrating with the fans like they just won the G1 Climax Finals. And meanwhile, they film the ring, and Matt's just sitting there in the ring beside himself with his fingers up like, nah, man, that was definitely a 2 count. There's no way that was 3. It's like for the first time in my life, I actually popped for a Young Bucks comedy spot, which may have been unintentional comedy too, who really knows. But sometimes that's the best comedy there is. So like I said, Private Party spent the entire commercial break celebrating with the fans. Bucks were absolutely beside themselves. And that was the first round of the AEW Tag Team Tournament. They have completely smeared my predictions, so I now have no idea who's going to win this thing by the end. I mean, I guess as a secondary guess, I'd probably have to go with SoCal Uncensored, but it was definitely a shocker of an opener. But I liked the match. I thought Private Party had a great showing. Crowd really likes them. They had a great match, a really great match at that. Thumbs way up here. Then we had Chris Jericho, Jake Hager, Sammy Guevara, and LAX come out to do a promo. Jericho introduced himself as the AEW champion. He put over everyone in the group, explained the unique qualities of each individual, going so far as to refer to Sammy Guevara as a Spanish god. He was also sure to note that everyone was on his list. Pee-hee. And then he gets to Jake Hager. And the people immediately, without hesitation, begin a chant of, "We the people." And Jericho stops. He tells him that "We the people" sucked, it's dead, and it's gone. And then he says that it was a bad idea from bad creative, and you're never going to hear from it again. The people immediately break into an AEW chant. And he says that Hagar is now an MMA badass, and he is not Jack Swagger anymore, and that is all that matters. And he buries Cody for a few minutes, says that he doesn't like his family, and at Full Gear on November 9th, he's going to beat the excretion out of Cody. Now, and by the way, the name of this group is apparently The Inner Circle. Wonder if they were having lunch at the pizza chain in Ohio when they came up with that name. Only people that have been to Ohio will get that joke. Anyway, I know a lot of people thought that this was like the best promo of Jericho's career or something like that. Was it a very good promo? Yes. Did he accomplish everything and more that he set out to do? Yes. Is Jericho probably the best promo in the business today? Yeah, probably. But best promo of Jericho's career? Like, come on. Was this better than Jericho's debut promo against The Rock in '99? Oh, hell no. Was this better than the 1004 holds promo he did on Dean Malenko in WCW? I don't think so. Was this better than the heel turn on Shawn Michaels from their feud back in 2007, 2008, whenever that feud was? No, I don't think so. Hell, I don't even think this is a better promo than the one Nick Aldis cut on that NWA studio show. Here's the thing. I think, if anything, this Chris Jericho promo here was a reflection on the sorry state of where wrestlers are in their current development in the ability to talk in a mainstream setting, particularly in WWE. And Jericho just being able to go out there with a microphone and put over talent and talk about upcoming matches without being hogtied to a script gives you the perspective on just how bad things are with WWE right now. It was a damn good promo. But when I hear people say best promo of Jericho's career, I mean, come on, man. You got a lot of retrospective content to sort through if you thought this was Jericho's best promo of his career. So, let's not get too ahead of ourselves here. You know, I know AEW is a new product and we want to put it over as much as we possibly can, but let's not insult our own intelligence either. Jimmy Havoc versus Darby Allin in a number one contenders match for the AEW World Championship. I've seen several Havoc Allin matches. I've never gotten the hype of Jimmy Havoc. And the more and more I watch him, I don't get Darby Allin either. I don't get the gimmick. I don't really see anything unique or groundbreaking about him in the ring, you know, other than the fact that he intentionally tries to kill himself to get over. It's just, I don't know. I watch him compete, and it's like, the first thing that comes to my mind, don't we have enough zombie/gothic emo characters in pro wrestling? And I know Jim Cornette doesn't like either of these guys. And what does he refer to them as? Indie outlaw mud show wrestlers. I wouldn't really go that far, but I don't know. Like, I watch that NWA show, and I see all these guys that just look like stars. You know, they carry themselves like big stars. They look like big stars. And it reflects when they're talking about wanting to challenge for the NWA World Heavyweight title. Like, those guys are big deals. I look at those guys on that NWA studio show, the first thing I think, those are superstars right there. They look the part, they act the part, and they work the part. And I watched Jimmy Havoc and Darby Allin on mainstream TV, and to me, the only thing I can think is it's two kids dressed in Halloween costumes having a match on TV. And I know a lot of people are getting hung up on the fact that this is a number one contenders match for the world title, and meanwhile, neither guy has really done anything to deserve a title opportunity. And yeah, I get that. I'm more focused on something that actually happened later in the program during the Moxley-Spears match, because Pac is out on commentary. He's basically complaining about the fact that Allin and Havoc are getting championship opportunities, despite the fact that Pac is undefeated in AEW, and he also has big wins over Kenny Omega and Adam Page. So then I think about it after the fact, and I'm like, well, if you are so angry and bitter about being ousted from that title opportunity, why didn't you just do a run-in, beat up Havoc and Allin, and then cut a promo about how this is all garbage and you deserve the title match first? It seems it would have made a little more sense than you letting the match between Havoc and Allin happen, only to then come out 20 minutes later and complain on commentary that you're not getting a title shot. Whatever. I mean, the match was what it was. Havoc beat on Allin for a lot of it. Havoc did a lot of biting on Allin's fingers. They did a dumb spot where Havoc suplexed Allin over the top rope to the outside, and Allin landed right on top of his leg. They went through a commercial, and when they came back, Allin made a very short comeback, bit Havoc's fingers, and then hit a coffin drop for the 3 count. So they set up Jericho versus Allin for next week. Take it for what it's worth. I don't really know what they're going to do, but we'll see. Riho and Britt Baker versus Emi Sakura and Bea Priestley. Isn't Bea Priestley the chick that shoves tampons down people's throats? Good signing, guys. So they kind of had like 2 stories going on here. They informed us before the match that Sakura actually trained Riho at a very young age. So they had the teacher versus student deal going on. And they also had the deal with Bea and Britt. I guess they've been feuding on and off since the All Out show. Yeah, they did work hard and they tried to have a good match. It was just okay. Broke down at the end. Bea and Britt did a brawl on the outside, which Aubrey Edwards made like no effort to break up. I mean, even the announcers are like, why is the ref just letting this go? And then eventually Britt got the pin on Sakura, however you pronounce the name. And you'll never guess what this set up for next week. Take a wild guess. If your guess was Britt Baker versus Riho, congratulations. You are just as confused as I am. They had a very brief deal with the Best Friends ringside. They asked how they feel about their match with SCU next week. And they say, why don't you ask him? And they move aside, and there's Orange Cassidy sitting there giving the old signature thumbs up to the camera. And I will say this. I said in one of the early FSWR reports that I thought Orange Cassidy was going to be a tough guy to book in AEW. They're really going to need to be careful with how they feature him, because you don't want to overexpose him to the audience. Like I said, the hardcore fans, they already know Cassidy. They're going to cheer or boo him no matter what. It's that casual fan base that you really need to be careful with. So I thought this was fine. So far he's been perfectly okay with what they've given him. Granted, they haven't given him a whole lot, but they're not trying to force him into matches right now. And for the early development of this product right now, I think that's a good thing. Wait until you establish some stars and, then you kind of push guys like Orange Cassidy into the mix there. And at least you have like a fallback option for something later down the road. Shawn Spears versus Jon Moxley. I said this last week during the Pac Adam Page match. I thought the match was good, but it was definitely missing something to make it more than just good. And I felt the same exact thing during this match too. I think one of the problems here was that I didn't necessarily know who I was supposed to cheer for. Shawn Spears was clearly the heel in this match, but Moxley has also been an established heel on AEW programming since his debut. And when they announced the match at the beginning of the program, I kept wondering what they were really expecting to get out of it. I remember virtually nothing about it. I already mentioned that Pac was out on commentary complaining about the world title deal. And meanwhile, the match is just Moxley and Spears having a match. There's no definitive face. There's no definitive heel. They're just doing stuff. And then Moxley wins with a Rough Rider / elevated Dirty Deeds, and that was it. And Shawn Spears lost again. They immediately phased him out of the picture so that they could shoot the deal with Moxley and Omega. And I don't really know what's going on with Shawn right now. Ideally, you put a heater with him and Tully Blanchard. You went through all the trouble to build this guy up as a ruthless bad guy over the summer. Why am I already watching him do jobs on TV? I feel like this is not a good use of Shawn Spears or Tully Blanchard right now. And if the answer is, well, we don't want to beat Jon Moxley right now, okay, that's fine. Just don't put the match together then. If you got to put them on the show in some capacity, just put them against different opponents. Put them both over in separate matches. It makes more sense than jobbing one guy out right now. Anyway, afterwards, Omega comes out with a barbed wire bat and broom. He tosses the bat to Moxley, and before they could go at it, Pac runs down and jumps Omega from behind with a chair. And then Moxley points the bat at him while Pac walks back up the ramp. Can we please have the Moxley-Omega match before we dive back into the Omega-Pac program? I know Pac and Omega technically haven't concluded their feud yet, but it feels like they're trying to go back to the well with Pac and Omega before they even do a single Moxley-Omega match. Pacing, AEW. Pacing. You should try it. And in the main event, Dustin Rhodes and Hangman Adam Page versus Sammy Guevara and Chris Jericho. So Dustin and Page just beat on Sammy forever. Sammy barely gets a lick of offense in the first half of the match. Jericho eventually distracts Page on the top rope so Sammy could cut him off with a fireman's carry drop. The heels work Page over for a little bit. Finally, Page hits the buckshot lariat, gets the tag, and Dustin runs wild for a minute. They did the Shattered Dreams deal in the corner, which actually came off as unintentionally funny because Dustin hits Guevara with the power slam, and Guevara actually takes the ref while Dustin teases he's going to kick Jericho in the corner. So yes, in fact, Sammy Guevara was actually helping Dustin Rhodes get a cheap kick in the corner behind the ref's back. But then Jake Hager runs in and hits a clothesline on Dustin. And then Jericho gets the Judas effect on Dustin and gets the 3 count. So the heels do the beatdown on Page and Dustin afterwards. LAX and Hager join in on the brawl. And then they do the blackout deal. Cody magically teleports to the ring. So I guess he's the Undertaker now. And he takes out the heels. They had more run-ins from guys. The Bucks were down there brawling with LAX at one point. They had MJF run down and do the deal where he teased he was going to turn on Cody, but then he took out the Inner Circle guys with a chair. And then as the heels backed up the ramp, out comes Darby Allin on a skateboard to take out Cody, which did look really cool, I'll give it that. And then the show concluded with the faces standing tall in the ring while Jericho cut a fiery heel promo saying he's going to kill Cody at the pay-per-view and he's going to destroy Darby Allin next week. So, I will say this. They had a very impactful ending to the show. There was a lot of Crash TV element that you would get out of the Attitude Era shows from back in the day. But I also cannot deny that there was a lot of stuff going on in the final segment. You had the Inner Circle beatdown after the match. You had the Cody run-in. You had the deal with MJF. You had the Bucks run in to attack LAX. You had Page and Jake Hager brawling up the ramp. You had the Darby Allin deal where he took out Jericho with the skateboard. It was just a lot to keep track of. And while everything did get a big reaction from the crowd, so I can't say that it didn't work. I will say that a lot of what they did in the final segment reflected what I thought of the show overall. Too much, too fast. They're trying to fit in as much content as they can, but in the process, we end up getting a lot of these crash TV skits, and everything is just happening really quickly right now. And it's not sinking in like it should, and they aren't letting things simmer with the audience before moving on to something else. And I could really tell that this is the case when they brought MJF down and had him tease that he was going to turn on Cody. If they would have ended the show with that, instead of trying to follow it up with like 3 or 4 different post angles, it would have had a lot more meaning than what it did. Because then you could leave everyone with the big cliffhanger and have that be the central talking point coming out of the show. Where does MJF really stand with Cody? Is he just buying his time before he ends up turning on him in the long run? You can have these people ask these lingering questions after the show. But instead they shot an angle in the midst of like 20 other things afterwards, and it just didn't have the same effect. So, I don't know. It's a small nitpick, but in the grand scheme of the show, it did have a reflection on what I thought overall from top to bottom with the programming. I liked a lot of what they did at the end. I just wish they would have spaced some stuff out more and try not to cram so much into the last 2 minutes of the show. Overall, though, I thought the show was very good. I didn't think it was blow away. I didn't think it was perfect from top to bottom, but it was a very good show. The opening tag match and the Jericho promo were outstanding. The main event was a lot of fun, including all the post-match stuff. They probably could have spaced it out more to have a better effect, but it was still good. The middle of the show, though, it was all over the place for me. The Havoc Allen match did nothing for me. The women's match was just kind of there, as was Moxley and Spears. And I'm still a little perplexed by how the structure of these matches are being put together right now. The one thing that NXT has been trying to focus on lately is varying the kinds of styles that they do so that everyone gets a bit of taste of different styles. And for me, several of the matches just kind of blended together this week on AEW and didn't really stand out from the others. The opener was a fast-paced and more spot-oriented match, and the main event was a more traditional standard tag match. Those were good. But the Allen Havoc match was just a moves match. The women's match, again, just a moves match. And even Moxley and Spears, it was just a moves match. I didn't really get the sense that AEW was having guys wrestle different types of styles this week. It's probably a small nitpick in the grand scheme of things, but part of the reason that watching WWE matches can be so frustrating a lot of the time is that I never see that variety in ring style. And this is kind of something that AEW was focusing on when they were building up anticipation for their show. You're going to see different kinds of matches. You're going to see different kinds of characters work different paces and different styles. And I didn't really see that this week. So I'm hoping this is something they try to focus on more in the coming weeks because, while you can hypothetically work every match as a fast-paced, action-packed match from bell to bell, that also can lose a lot of steam very quickly if you're not careful. Try different styles, amateur, technical, MMA, mix it up a bit. I think you have the talent for it. You just need to structure your matches differently. All right, NXT, October 9th. 2019. Drew Gulak versus Lio Rush for the Cruiserweight Championship. So, I ended up really liking this match by the end, but this also had what I have now coined as the term WWE match syndrome. The bell rings, they immediately start doing like 1,500 high spots, and they're flying all around the place. They do a couple quick pin attempts, the crowd's going crazy for all this. Leo's doing all kinds of dives to Gulak from the outside. And then, after they get in their 2 minutes of hot action, they immediately slow the pace down and kill the crowd with a WWE-style match. Gulak's doing a lot of limb torquing. He pulls Lio down to the mat for more limb torquing. The crowd's getting deader and deader by the minute. And after a whole lot of nothing that went down in the middle, they come back from the break, and the match got awesome again. Lio went for that springboard stunner from the second rope, got caught in the Dragon Sleeper. The crowds were getting really behind him to have him break out of the hold. They went up top, and Lio gave Gulak a headbutt, hit a big frog splash, got the springboard stunner for the second time. And then he went up top and hit a big frog splash and got the 3 to win the title. And the crowd was so happy to see this finish. And then afterwards, William Regal came down to present Lio with the purple Kool-Aid belt. And Gulak yanked it away and did the big tease at taking him out afterwards, but then placed the belt on his shoulder, did a very concise handshake afterwards, and then he left. And I really like the way they did that. If for no other reason, then while they might have put over the fact that Gulak can respect his loss, they still tease the idea that he's bitter about the whole thing and that he really wants a rematch. So he's still a heel, and that's good. Yeah, I hate it when they have the heels endorse the baby faces after losing and they try to turn themselves face in the process. The story here was that Gulak owned up to the fact that he lost, but he's not happy about it. So I like that. They aired a Finn Balor video package. Basically, the video was created to remind you of how awesome Finn Balor used to be before he went up to the main roster and got buried. Rhea Ripley versus Aaliyah. I was fixing to completely bury the concept of this squash match. I was totally expecting them to have a 50-50 match where Rhea was going to have to sell for Aaliyah for a lot of it. And then they ring the bell. Rhea kills Aaliyah with a bunch of clotheslines. She throws her around the ring like a rag doll. And then Rhea locks in a reverse cloverleaf, hoists Aaliyah up in front of her, spins her around, slams her on the mat, and then Aaliyah taps out. This is the greatest finish to a squash match I think I've seen all year. Then afterwards, she gets on the mic and tells Shayna that she's coming for her. And if I were Shayna in this situation, I absolutely would have wet my pants. Breezango versus the Forgotten Sons. So I guess the gimmick with Breezango is that they are supposed to come out each week in different entrance attire. And I won't say that the concept is dumb, because I don't know for sure. I do know that during the entrances here, they had the generic construction machine noises in the background, and I don't know if people were expecting some kind of new debut or something. All I know is that it's very quiet for a minute, and then you just hear one guy in the crowd just shout, "What?" I laughed. And then Tyler Breeze and Fandango came out, and the crowd's just like, "Oh, that's it? That was lame." And if you thought things could not get any lamer, out comes Jackson Riker carrying the presumed dead members of Everrise. He drops them down at the top of the ramp, glares down Breezango in the ring like he's about to come down and steamroll over these clowns. And then the other two guys from the Forgotten Sons come out. And it was at this point that you can audibly hear people in the crowd groaning with disdain because they know that they are now going to have to watch a Forgotten Sons match on TV. They have a very bland tag match that no one cared about. For the first time in I don't even remember how long, I actually got up to go to the bathroom during this match. I came back and they were still doing stuff. I was working on my computer for a few more minutes, and then I hear that the winners of the match are the Forgotten Sons, and it was at that point that I determined I'm glad that I did not pay any attention to this match. They did another promo for the Keith Lee Dominic Dijak blow-off next week. I love when these men wrestle matches. One of my running jokes with NXT is that they could base an entire show around running Keith Lee and Dominic Dijak matches for 2 hours. I don't think I'd ever get sick of it. With that being said, this is probably the best time to blow off the feud. They should probably move on to other programs before they become stale and directionless. You know, God knows Keith Lee has been directionless in NXT since he debuted. I still would really like to see a Keith Lee Damian Priest feud at some point. The only problem there is that it doesn't leave you a whole lot for Dominic to do in the meantime. I guess we shall see. Boa versus Cameron Grimes. So the match is as follows. They ring the bell. Grimes looks up at the rampway and points, "Hey, look." Boa and the ref proceed to simultaneously look up the ramp at what I presumed at the time was nothing. It was definitely something. And then Grimes hits Boa with a double foot stomp and pins him. And again, at the present time, all I could think here was Boa and the ref are the dumbest people on the planet. Why would you turn away from an active match when you know this guy is trying to take advantage? But as it turns out, this was not Cameron Grimes merely trying to cause a distraction to get a cheap win, because out walks Killian Dane immediately after the bell. Grimes scurries out of the ring like a rat, and then Dane proceeds to beat up Boa on the outside and drag him all the way to the announce team, where he gives him a press slam on the table. So, as much as this angle was designed to put heat on Dane and, I guess, possibly set up a feud with him and Grimes, I really don't know why. There's one thing that I realized after I watched this segment. Other than the fact that NXT has been coming up with these strangest sets of feuds for matches lately. Obviously, they see something in Cameron Grimes. They put him on TV every week. They have him win matches. They push him hard. And it's like, fine. Okay, I may not see anything of the guy. I might think he just looks like a homeless guy with a top hat. But if WWE thinks they can make a star out of him, go for it. They've made stars out of guys that I thought were never going to get over in the business before. Here's my question then. If you really think that Cameron Grimes is going to be a big star for you, why did you not have this guy win the breakout tournament? Why did you have Jordan Myles win the tournament and then lose to Adam Cole immediately if you were just going to give the big push to Cameron Grimes? Is it because you didn't want to have a heel win the tournament? Well, to be honest with you, I don't really know what Cameron Grimes is right now. They don't really push him one way or the other. Right now, he's just a guy wrestling matches. The fans aren't really picking or choosing. They're just sitting on their hands when he's out there. I don't know. I'm really at a loss for words with this one. It's the same thing that's going on with the Forgotten Sons right now. They really want to push those guys as a monster tag team, and I can really respect them for trying to go all the way with them. But at some point, you just got to own up and say it's not working. And that's what I'm starting to feel with Cameron Grimes right now. They're experimenting with him. They're putting him out there to try to get him over, and it's just not working. They got to change something with him soon, because this Trevor Lee, Cameron Grimes ain't doing squat for me right now. And no, sorry, a feud with Killian Dane ain't helping matters any. They had a hype promo for Pete Dunne versus Damian Priest, wherein the gist of the promo was for Priest to inform us that he attacked Pete Dunne because reasons. Yeah, I don't know. Roderick Strong versus Isaiah Swerve Scott. So what exactly is the swerve with the Isaiah Scott fella? Is the swerve that he is secretly being managed by Russo? Boy, wouldn't that be a reveal. Now that is a swerve in and of itself. So the story of the match here was that Isaiah Scott dominated Roddy for the entirety of the match. Roddy could literally not muster up any offense on him at all. And all of this led to the Undisputed Era coming out, realizing that Roddy was about to get beaten by this rookie. So they eventually hit the ring for a distraction. Scott turned away for a split moment, and then Roddy took advantage, hit an end of heartache, followed by a strong hold for the quick submission. I thought it was a pretty fun match. They put Scott on the map here. They told a great effective story of the heel veteran champion underestimating the up-and-coming rookie, and the veteran heel had to have his crew come out to save him when he was in dire need of their help. I do wonder, again, however, why have Jordan Myles win the breakout tournament if you're going to give a featured spotlight here to Isaiah Scott? You couldn't even just boil the tournament down to Cameron Grimes versus Isaiah Scott? I mean, if those were the guys that you were going to push coming out of the thing, wouldn't that have made more sense? Oh, gosh. Anyway, afterwards, Adam Cole cut a promo and basically put over that Scott is good, but he's not great like the Undisputed Era is. A rain shower of boos being let down from this underhanded comment. And he talked about Finn Balor and Tommaso Ciampa for a minute when Velveteen Dream interrupts from the little balcony area. He calls out Roddy. They do the deal on the Jumbotron where Roddy's laying on the couch with the North American title covering his junk. And then Dream puts over that just like when they face off for their title in a couple weeks, Roddy will prove that he always comes up a little bit short. And then they do the deal where the belt disappears and you see a nude and penisless Roddy, which, yes, they actually did air on TV. And Roddy was not happy about this, if you could wildly guess. So out comes Ciampa, and he just saunters down to the ring with a chair and a crutch. Undisputed Era all back out of the ring because they want nothing to do with this lunatic. And Ciampa puts the chair down, he sits, and then he just looks at Cole and says, "Goldie, Daddy's home." And that is all it took for the crowd to go ape crap for this. So then we had the greatest segment of the night, aside from the main event. Kathy wants to interview Ciampa when who should walk in but Angel Garza. And he starts mouthing off to Ciampa in Spanish. Ciampa punches him in the face. Kathy goes, "Ciampa, what did he say?" And then Ciampa just looks at Garza, and he just goes, "I have no idea." And that, ladies and gentlemen, that right there is the rebirth of Tommaso Ciampa's 2019 in-ring return in 2 weeks. Because a man confronted him and started bickering in Spanish. Ciampa punched this man in the mouth, and that is all it took to get Ciampa versus Garza booked for NXT. Ciampa versus Garza. Just another weird pairing of guys. Like, that's the only thing I could think when they announced this match at the end of the show. Ciampa and Garza. Just weird. Dakota Kai versus Bianca Belair. So, I liked the match. I thought the girls worked hard. And I've said, I don't even know how many times by now, I followed Kai's work on the indie circuit for years. Back when she wrestled as Evie. And, when she signed to NXT, there was a part of me that was really excited for her. But there was also a part of me that was worried. Because Evie's gimmick for a lot of years was very similar to Bayley's gimmick. She was a white meat, lovable babyface with a fun personality, a great smile, and someone that everyone could universally get behind. The same thing with the Kylie Ray character, believe it or not. The problem with Dakota in NXT is that she's still missing something. Like, the crowd likes her, but ever since she came back, and I know it's only been 2 weeks, but there's still something that's not clicking there. And I think it's due in large part to the fact that her gimmick is just, she does a lot of kicks. And, while she does have some very innovative offense and a lot of what she does in the ring looks cool, there's still that element to her personality that I'm not seeing here like I did when she wrestled outside of WWE. She needs something else to work with other than just being the girl that does kicks. Maybe a video package to put over a backstory would be helpful. I don't know. They just need something right now. Anyway, her and Bianca had a very good match. Dakota dominated most of it. She did a lot of kicks, as the announcers put over. And then Bianca won with the kiss of death. And afterwards, she cut a promo saying that she's going to be the one to take down Shayna and not Rhea. And if Bianca had not already lost clean to Shayna twice, I might have bought this promo as legit, but now not so much. Kushida versus Walter for the UK Championship. So, if you saw the Tyler Bate-Walter match earlier this year, that's pretty much everything you need to know about a Walter match. He's a great, big, mean bully who beats up people. And if you recall, I said initially that the dynamics of Kushida and Walter wrestling felt a little odd, but then I thought about it more. And Kushida was the perfect opponent for Walter here. I have no idea what I was initially thinking. I guess I was assuming that the clash of styles would get in the way, but no. Kushida is the perfect babyface to wrestle the heel Walter. Kushida is a great babyface in peril, but he's also a believable technical wrestler with arguably higher wrestling skill level than Walter. And Walter's a monster brawler, but he is also capable of wrestling Kushida's style, so it's also believable. And they had such a great story here, because whether or not this is intentional, it ended up being the pivotal turning point in the match to favor Walter. Kushida's just wrestling circles around Walter. He's frustrating him with drop kicks and springboards. And then he tries to go up for a springboard drop kick on the ropes. But he slips, he loses his balance, and he lands directly in front of Walter. And what does he do? Walter just boots this guy in the face and kills him. It was awesome. They went back and forth, traded submissions. Walter did a lot of signature chops. They had an amazing Spanish fly / hoverboard submission spot from the top rope, which the crowd went crazy for. And after Kushida tried to go to the well one too many times with the hoverboard, Walter gave him a big running drop kick, followed by a lariat, and got the pin. Loved the match. Match of the year? No. Better than Bait Walter from the UK Cardiff takeover? Oh, hell no. Was this even better than the Adam Cole-Matt Riddle match from last week? Probably not. As a story, I thought this was better. But as far as moves and action goes from bell to bell, I still think Riddle and Cole was still better. And it's tough too. I don't even know if I would say this is better than Private Party versus Young Bucks. It was still an excellent main event, and I can't get over how brilliant of a worker Walter is. I've only seen a handful of his matches, but in seeing not only his match with Tyler Bate, but also seeing his match here with Kushida, I think they need to push this guy to the title picture. I would absolutely pay money to see an Adam Cole-Walter NXT title match at a takeover. As great as it'd be to see Ciampa get a second title reign, the more and more I see Walter matches, the more I advocate for them to give this guy a world title reign down the road. He would be the biggest babyface in the world against Adam Cole. Love to see that match. So anyway, that was NXT for the week. Haven't seen the ratings yet. I presume NXT will probably get slaughtered again like they did last week, although I don't think it'll be as widespread as the first head-to-head show. Overall, I thought the show was fine. The main event was terrific. The Cruiserweight match was a lot of fun. The Ciampa Cole bill is coming along well. Still kind of wondering about the pushes of guys like Cameron Grimes and the Forgotten Sons, but it is what it is. I think a lot of it boils down to putting them in programs that people can get behind, and so far it doesn't seem like that's what they're doing. And with that all being said, that will end this edition of the 5 Starr Wrestling Report review series. Again, everyone, if you liked what you saw, please go ahead and subscribe and click that bell icon above to keep posted with all FSWR content in the future. Make sure you leave this video a rating too, and go ahead and share your feedback about what you thought of all three or however many of the shows you watched here. I'd love to get your feedback. You talk about some stuff that I didn't mention too, just so I could get some different perspective. Be great to hear from you. Thanks everyone, and I will see you on Monday for the weekend/news portion of the FSWR report.